Are you ready to dive into the heart of music business? Introducing the Rhythms and Rights podcast, brought to you by SAMRO.
Been asked me, what is SAMRO? I want to go register my music there. If I will I be whatever? And I never know what SAMRO is. SAMRO is like God, like it's a mystery. How does it work? How does SAMRO work, please? Explain it to me.
Join us as we unravel the complexities of music rights management, share inspiring industry stories, and provide valuable insights for composers, authors, and publishers. Each episode offers an informative session on everything you need to know about SAMRO and the music industry. Stay tuned for Rhythms and Rights, your backstage pass to the music business. Only for
Good day and welcome to Rhythm and Rights podcast with SAMRO. My name is Nobambo Kagoduka and I am your host for today. And this episode is the one episode that I know a lot of our members have been looking forward to. We've spoken to our CEO, we've spoken to licensing, we've spoken to member services, and now it boils down to the last phase of the SAMRO process, which is the distribution process. In studio, I have my general manager, Mr. Clinton Hornett, who will discuss the essential topic of the royalty distribution and SAMRO's role in ensuring fair and accurate payments to its members and the necessary documentation for successful distributions. So Clinton will also provide us with insights into the challenges and advancements in the royalty distribution process, and especially in the digital era that we are in. So stay with us to explore SAMRO's pivotal role in protecting music creators' rights and supporting the vibrant South African music industry. Let's get started. Clinton, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nobambo. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I know my viewers are looking forward to having you today because you are the general manager in distribution. So can you tell us a bit about your role in SAMRO and what you do?
So my journey started at SAMRO about 12 years ago. I started off as a business analyst. I then became the project office manager. I managed our undocumented department, and then I moved to the general manager of distributions.
Oh, wow.
It's my function to make sure that the money that our licensing department collects gets distributed to the correct rights holders of the music that was played.
So now you're actually answering my next question, because I was going to ask that we find ourselves in the distribution process. So we've collected these funds. Yes. So the licensing department's role is to license. After the licensing, finance has the cash. And then after the cash, you distribute. So what are the main sources of the royalty income for SAMRO and how are these categorized?
So there are various sources of income for SAMRO. The majority of it comes from big broadcasters like the SABC and MultiChoice. You also get it from your smaller licensees such as pubs and clubs and restaurants, etc. And we are definitely noticing a massive increase in our online licensees. Spotify, YouTube, Apple, etc.
Okay, so interesting. And I know that there was one of our press releases where we spoke about one of our biggest digital distributions. So what contributed to that, Clinton?
So we are definitely noticing a change in consumption of our music users, whereby they definitely tend towards online platforms.
Yes.
We have managed to, by our licensing, negotiate significant license fees for our members,
yes,
and we pay them accordingly. So we're definitely seeing an increase in our digital distributions.
Interesting. So young people right now making music, sharing it on YouTube, there's a big market for that.
Yeah, there's most definitely a huge market. Also, there's definitely an increase on video on demand, such as Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
And those kind of platforms as well.
So, and I know we have what we call the distribution categories on the SAMRO website, which is www.samro.org.za, that you can visit, and then you go under the tab distribution. So there you'll find everything you need to know and understand about the distribution process. So, Clinton, we have those different categories, but I think one of the main questions online is always, we issue out a press release as SAMRO to say, we've distributed radio in general. And one member is going to say, I've heard my music being played on one of the community radio stations in my area. I heard it being played on one of the regional radio stations. But now, SAMRO, I've only received 100 rands in royalties. What are the contributing factors to such?
Sure. So, very good question. As you mentioned, we do have various different platforms or categories of distribution, such as our radio in general, our television, and our digital. The way in which it actually works is that each distribution has a pool of funds that's allocated to that distribution. And that pool of funds is further segmented into different channels and stations. So the licensee or the broadcaster of that specific content would get licensed individually.
Yes.
And that then gets applied to the category. So, for example, Nhlobo Wenene or 5FM or Kozi, whatever the station or region may be,
yes,
has that specific funds allocated to that channel. So the way in which it works, let's use our Nhlobo Wenene example. Nhlobo Wenene will get licensed.
Yes.
They will supply us with usage. And usage is effectively what songs were played at what time and for how long on which day.
Yes.
That then gives us a number of seconds. So we have a total number of seconds that we apply for the year. The amount of funds that's then allocated to Nhlobo Wenene is then divided by that number of seconds. And that gives us a unit rate per second. Okay? And the unit rate per second is specific to each channel or station. So it's not one set uniform across all, but very much specific to the channel or station that it relates to.
Okay. So let's say the license fee for SAMRO radio station is 1,000 Rand, and we in the playlist say we receive 1,000 or 100,000 seconds of music being played by SAMRO radio station. So we take that 100,000, we divide it by the 1,000, which is the license fee. Then we get our unit rate.
That's 100% spot on.
So your music gets played on SAMRO radio station 20 times. So by that amount, let's say it's 5 cents. Then we say 20 multiply by 5 cents, and then we get now the value that will be distributed to the composer.
So if you speak about the number of performances, and in your example 20,
yes,
you would take 20 times the duration of the song.
Oh,
so let's assume that an average song plays for 3 minutes. Okay, so it would be 20 times 3, which is 60, and times your 5 cents. And that would then give you an amount for that specific song.
Sometimes when you go through the SAMRO social media, you will see, our followers, our members, there's always a gap between what we distribute and what they hear. So they say that, listen, my music has been playing for every day of the month. It's been playing for the whole year, but SAMRO, I'm still getting 100 Rand. And I know that there was a recent Twitter query that we had that said, guys, my music has been playing, but you are still saying that I'm a prospective member and I believe that I should be earning more. So, Clinton, you are saying that maybe the contributing factor to that case, which is not accurate, of course, because we are just talking hypothetically, that the case might be that the radio station that the music is being played on doesn't have a higher license fee value.
Correct.
Even though the music is being played continuously.
Yes. So as in your example, some of the license fees are higher than others for the specific station or category.
Yes.
So, for example, we could charge one station 100,000 Rand.
Yes.
And another station 1,000 Rand. And the number of plays can be exactly the same for each station. However, because the unit rate is now much less, you get paid much less.
Because a community radio station is not there is not revenue driven, right?
Correct.
So that license fee for a community radio station, we cannot compare it to a commercial radio station, for instance.
Yes,
right?
For sure.
So those are the biggest contributing factors to the unit
So
rate.
we have public, private, and community, specifically when it comes to radio.
Yes.
And also things such as when we do get to digital, such as Spotify, etc., it's huge volumes and low value. So your song can get viewed 100,000 times. Unfortunately, the amount of money that's allocated to that is not always in line with the number of plays.
Oh, really?
Because it's the rate per second.
Because a part of me was thinking, if my music is on YouTube and I'm getting millions of views, I should be getting at least 1 million Rand.
It unfortunately doesn't quite work like that, but you should expect to see a fair amount of revenue coming your way.
Okay. Now I'm getting this. I'm understanding it a little bit myself. But now, okay, Clinton, now we've spoken about the different categories.
Yes.
Let us talk about documentation and compliance, which I know that SAMRO is very big on, because from my understanding, we have what we call cue sheets, and that is for film, right?
Correct.
We have the playlist that we receive from the broadcasters in order for us to determine the unit rate and the allocation of royalties to each individual.
Correct.
So what kind of documentation do you require for each category that we have?
Another very good question, Nobamo. So we have different requirements for different distributions. Let's start with the easy ones first. So let's speak about radio, which works fairly similar to digital and the like.
Yes.
So effectively, what the process is that, as I mentioned before, we'll get a usage report. That usage report will tell you what song has played on that specific station, how many times, etc., etc. We then need to be able to match that song played to the rights holders of that song.
Okay.
So in order to be able to do that, we need what we call a notification. The notification effectively tells you which rights holders have what share of that work.
Yes.
We then take that copyright, the documentation goes into a copyright, and we match it against that work. The money then allocated to that work, musical work, is then split by the various rights holders. So if there's 4 rights holders, 2 of them have 25% each.
Yes.
One has 40%, one has 10%. That's how we then split the royalties made available for that distribution.
And that is an agreement that SAMRO gets from the music creator.
Yeah, so the agreement that comes from the specific creator or the publisher of that creator is a deed of assignment, whereby their rights are assigned to us in order to be able to collect the various royalties due to those specific members.
Yes.
Then we have a little bit of a bigger challenge when it comes to television or cinema, whereby we need to have a cue sheet. So first, they will supply us again the usage. However, that gets supplied at the program level. So on that, but what I mean is either a series will play, or a movie will play, or an advert will play, or a promotion. We then need to go and take that specific usage report now at that higher level and match a cue sheet to it. So the cue sheet then tells you which songs have played within that specific movie or series. And then we have to then go through the same process as we did with radio, whereby we have to match the notification or the copyright against that music. So it's a bit of a double challenge when it comes to that.
Yes. So now you have to, what you're getting from the production company and what we have in-house, they have to match and they have to speak in order for us to distribute.
Yeah, so effectively we have to take the music used and we have to find the owners of that music and then pay them accordingly.
Now, we have what we call it SAMRO undocumented works.
Correct.
And from my understanding is that a majority of or contributing factors to undocumented works is members not notifying their music with SAMRO.
Correct.
Not receiving those cue sheets from production companies. And now SAMRO, we have collected, we have licensed Netflix, for instance.
Yes.
And now we've received the revenue, it's sitting with us. However, we are unable to distribute. So can you take us through those challenges, Clint, and what has SAMRO been trying to do over these years to try and sort undocumented works?
Sure. So undocumented works is very much a focus point for SAMRO and something that we vigorously and determinedly try to reduce as much as we possibly can. And exactly what you have mentioned, our biggest challenge is not getting the relevant information of rights holders that relate to those specific works. So we consider SAMRO's members to be SAMRO's partners.
Yes.
You have to help us to help you. So SAMRO does their utmost to try and get as many of those notifications as they can. We get them from various places. However, at the end of the day, we still need our members to be able to notify their works so that we can match it to the usage that we receive and pay the rightful owners of those works. If we had a notification for every piece of music that got broadcast, Undoc would no longer be in existence.
Because I know that young people are always publishing music on a daily basis. And some of the songs now you see, because of digital era, TikTok, Facebook, and all of these other platforms, they produce their music and it just blows up on those platforms. And then see that a production company chooses to use that music without knowing that that individual does not belong to any society. So what happens to those funds of those music creators?
So in order to get paid, you have to belong to a society. So within South Africa and Southern Africa, obviously SAMRO is that society.
Yes.
We also have reciprocal agreements with our sister societies around the world. So, for example, PRS in the United Kingdom. So effectively what would happen is we pay our members directly belonging to SAMRO. However, if you do belong to one of our sister societies throughout the world, we will pay that society and they will on-pay it to you. If you do not belong to a society, you will not get paid any royalties from SAMRO.
So you have to register with SAMRO.
You have to register to a society.
To a society, particularly, not SAMRO.
But obviously within South Africa, we want our members to register with SAMRO.
Yes. So, okay, Clint, so where do they notify? Where do they go in order for them to notify their songs? I've written a song. I'm a music composer now. What is my next step?
So assuming that you are currently a SAMRO member,
yes,
SAMRO has a portal where you can go and upload all of that information relating to your various works. So you would obviously have critical the title, who the rights holders are, the specific unique identifiers of those rights holders, which we call an IPI.
Yes.
Which relates to those. You will need to tell us the role codes. So we need to know, are you a composer, are you an author, are you a publisher, etc. And the percentage that you have, the ownership percentage that you have within that work.
So it needs to be clear. If there's 5 of us writing this song, let us be clear that I get 10, the other members get 10 each, and of course our publisher.
Correct.
Okay. But okay, Clint, now help me, right? Because I'm trying to get our viewers to understand that, yes, your music is playing. And as you have explained, it does not necessarily mean that you're hearing your song playing every day, you're going to receive a larger value, right, of royalty payments. So what advice could you share with our members? And of course, young people coming up and wanting to be music creators as to what can they do to maximize their earnings and of course get their, let's say, administration correct with SAMRO in order for the distribution process to not fail, to commence on time and for us to distribute 100%.
So I think obviously pertinent to SAMRO is understanding who you are and what belongs to you.
Yes.
It's all about intellectual property. And that's what we are here to protect and make sure that you are compensated for.
Yes.
So make sure that the information is always given to SAMRO, so we know who the owners of that content is.
Because if you don't know, you aren't able to distribute.
It's very challenging for us to distribute, and we don't want funds to land up in
Undoc
or unidentified.
And I think also the other issue is also our members using different names. I'm Nobambo. I go by the name of B, and a playlist is coming from a radio station and they have B. However, when I registered with SAMRO, I said I'm Nobambo. So in those instances, what does the distribution team do?
So our distribution systems are quite fancy.
Okay.
So again, speaking about the IPI number and the database that it holds, we have something called the patronym. So Nobambo would be your patronym. However, if your stage name is B or Miss B or whatever it may be,
yes,
those are called pseudonyms. Those pseudonyms all match against your patronym. We will consider all of those when we try to do the match of the musical works used versus our copyrights. So in that way, we are able to extend the search even further to try and identify who you are.
So technology is evolving.
Technology is evolving. SAMRO's got some very exciting developments that are coming and currently in process or in progress, which I'm sure that our General Manager of Information Technology will explain further on.
No, looking forward to that episode because I want to hear more on that one. So what mistakes and oversights that do our members normally make? I know maybe you've mentioned some of them, but I just want us to emphasize on that so that anyone watching the show can take on something to say, okay, fine, these are my mistakes. Let me try and reach out to SAMRO and correct them.
Sure. So I think one of the pitfalls, and it's just a generalization when it comes to creatives, that they're not always very good with administration.
Yes.
I cannot emphasize enough that we need the information relating to copyrights and your intellectual property to be able to pay you accurately and correctly. So the biggest stumbling block for us is not knowing in certain instances who are the owners of that music.
Your last message to our members and our viewers. What do you want them to know about the distribution process?
The distribution process can be quite complex, but it can also be simplified.
Yes.
Tell us who you are. Tell us what you own. We will collect the money. We will make sure that you are properly compensated for your intellectual property.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from the General Manager of Distributions, Mr. Clinton Hornett. And I know that you might have more questions. You want to know more about the distribution process. Drop your questions below, as we'll be sharing this video on our YouTube page at SAMRO, and we will take all of your questions and we'll get Mr. Hornett to answer you as much as he can on all of your comments. Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of SAMRO Rhythm and Rides, our podcast. Until next time.
This is Lyric. You may remember him from the video that showed how to become a SAMRO member. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it now. So, Lyric, now that you're a member, you can start spending those mad royalties, right? Not exactly. It's a little more complicated than that. To explain how this all works, let's introduce the amazing SAMRO distribution machine. Isn't it awesome? It's not a real machine. It's symbolic. Just go with it. The thing is that musicians are often so excited about making music that they don't take the time to learn how the SAMRO machine works. And that means they think they're going to get paid, and when they don't, there are riots and mayhem. And nobody likes that. To make sure that doesn't happen, we want to teach you the inner workings of the SAMRO distributions machine, so you don't need to get worked up. Here's what happens. See, the money goes in here. It comes from all kinds of different music users. And then the machine does some stuff, and the money pops out the other side in the form of royalties that get paid to you. Still with me? Good. So far, not too complicated. Now here's where it gets tricky. You see, the SAMRO machine works according to SAMRO's financial year, which is from July of the current year to June of the following year. Royalty income is also calculated retrospectively, which means if your music was active this year, you'll only be paid next year. Anyway, this sometimes causes confusion because people expect to be paid at a certain time and they aren't. And then there are riots and the burning of things, and that's bad. The next thing you need to know is that the SAMRO machine works according to how active your work is. If your music is very active across various mediums, it means it is being used a lot out there. The SAMRO machine works over time, which means more licenses are being issued and more money is being collected, which means a bigger payout for you. Party time! But hold up, it gets more complicated. You see, the SAMRO machine doesn't pay out everything all in one go. That would overload the machine, and then it would probably explode. And that would be bad, okay? So, we have 4 different distributions, 4 separate times when royalties are paid for different kinds of music usage. The first distribution happens between February and March, and it's called Radio and General. This is the payout for money collected from, you guessed it, radio broadcasts and music used in places like malls, pubs, restaurants, shops, stuff like that. The second is TV distributions, which happens between March and April, which, surprise, is money you get if your music has been used on, TV. The next is foreign distribution, which happens in July and December. These are royalties you get if your music is used abroad. Maybe you're big in Japan. It's possible. Lastly, in October, there's film distribution. Like the name says, this is for music that has been used in films. Now, to make things even more complicated, we also have something called post-distribution, which are monthly payouts to settle up any outstanding money from the big 4 distributions that for some or other reason didn't get paid to you at the time. Like I said, you only get paid out if your music was broadcast in the previous financial year, so there's no guarantee that you'll receive royalties at each distribution. So if you don't hate the machine, get your music out there. All money from any of these distributions gets paid directly into your bank account, and as a SAMRO member, you can check up on your previous distributions on the SAMRO web portal. where you can also keep your personal information and banking details up to date to ensure we can keep in touch and you can get paid. And that's it. Do you get it now, Lyric? That's how the distribution machine works. The more you know, the better life gets with SAMRO.